I want to note, though, before I answer your question more directly, the strong connections between Signs and Rutgers. Because Joan Burstein, a founding associate editor, was at Rutgers. 2 founding editorial board members were then at Rutgers, Elaine Showalter and Froma Zeitlin, the great classicist. Another founding associate editor, Don DeStanton, came from Barnard to Rutgers. And I, of course, put in many, many happy years here at Rutgers from 1980 to 1998 with Time Out at the MacArthur Foundation. But I look at this room, and the Brain Trust is sitting in these red-covered chairs, because I look at it, how many of you contributed to those early days. So the Brain Trust is in this whole room. And I think we all want to acknowledge everyone in this room who gave so much and did so much. Women in politics, Ruth, Sue, we were in this together.
And so we didn't have to do that kind of thinking through of how it would be. And we also had given these incredible boards that Catherine and Donna and Joan had created. So we had all that given. This came to us in 19, well, we really sort of knew it was going to come as of about 1979. And this occasion made me think back to that time. It still was, as I remember it, it was still heady days of the second wave of feminism. It was all so new, so exciting. We were so delighted to be there, telling the men that they hadn't thought about it all, and that we could think of it as well as they could, and we could think of our own things.
What was our vision? Well, we had 4 parts of the vision, and we're each going to talk about 2 of them. The first was a vision to try and reconnect or to connect to things that were happening in the real world, particularly to connect with political and social issues. Now, this is, in fact, Mary's second question that she posed to us, so we're not going to talk too much about our answers to that question here, because we'll have another opportunity to do so. But we did establish a new section in the journal, a section called Forum, which was meant to, or at least part of it too developed over time, but it was to look at points of contestation around the world that involved women's issues.
We would get back manuscripts, either just submitted or commissioned pieces such as these, that seemed to be talking about a feminism that was not my idea of feminism. And in the years since, I have learned much more about this and have learned how to read manuscripts. At the very beginning, I didn't even know how to read these manuscripts. I had the instinct that I would need to make them like my kind of feminism, but I say my American kind of feminism. And that was a problem that was an interesting problem. I don't think that it was fun, actually, because we would have to be dealing and tossing around thoughts that either maybe we once upon a time had, but we're far too sophisticated to have those thoughts now, or whatever. But it was marvelous and but difficult, and that brought another. So there was both the practical stuff of getting stuff back and forth, finding people, and then this more interesting thing about feminism itself and how we were defining it, or how we wanted it defined in the journal, because after all it was our journal, but it wasn't really, so that made it interesting.
This is what I wrote just very briefly in my beginning editorial. 20 years after its founding, Signs has established its academic credentials. Its peer review process is rigorous, its essays often groundbreaking, its reputation prestigious. We think it is time now to take more risks, to provoke more debate, to prize the lively, to experiment occasionally with innovative forms, to sharpen the scholarly edges of discussion. We look forward to publishing articles in various voices, articles engaging gender, race, culture, class, nation, and or sexuality, a mantra with which we are all familiar and which has now is longer, I guess, if you're talking about that list. It's always awkward, and we acknowledged its awkwardness even as we were talking about it. And we wanted those things to be either as central focuses or as constitutive analytics. We are looking for exciting essays that will launch new inquiries or prompt intense debate.
I think it's not just because I'm a historian that I notice now how much things change, but how much they also stay the same. I'd like to point out that after what Kate Stimson said, that at UCLA, not a week went by that we did not receive poetry and fiction for the journal, and then angry calls thereafter asking how dare we exclude poetry and fiction from the journal. For this event, I read over what Sandra Harding, my co-editor, and I wrote when we actually applied to the journal to be editors, and I got about halfway through and was increasingly embarrassed because I realized that much of what we said never either had already come to be or, in fact, we went off in other directions. One of our goals was to be global. That's basically what everyone has said with a different word. And we wrote a great deal about it. That turned out to be one of the easiest things that we did, because no sooner did the office open than we received a fabulous issue, special issue on global feminisms that had originated in Seattle.